Hey guys, thanks for joining me. Welcome to Midgard Art Studios. We are going to do some behind the scenes looks on how I turned some of this into something closer resembling to this. And of course, I will do overviews on what has been done as well as what will be done to tie it all together. But as you can see, this commission was based around the Batman Who Laughs. So today, as a test run, I did the Batman Who Laughs himself. I'm going to be doing some of his minions, the Robins, as you will. Now, I knew nothing about how these guys kind of got started until I started looking into it based around this commission. It turns out that each Robin is created, well, for his little army in a pretty sadistic fashion. So what he does is he infests the child with the Joker serum and then will murder their parents right in front of him in a similar fashion as to how his parents were murdered. Twisted, right? So today I'm going to be starting off by working on a base coated chest piece. I use flat black for it. Lately I've been finding myself going towards Rust-Oleum for it just because it's cost effective and I can get my hands on it pretty straightforward at almost anywhere I go. You'll find that's a lot of what my projects tend to fold around to. But without further ado, let's get into it. For this build, I have a couple different colors I'm going to be starting off with. Because the way Robin's shirt was done is it was a primarily red shirt with green boots, gloves, and a black and yellow cape. We're going to be working on, as well as the, of course, bright yellow, canary yellow, for lack of a better term, belt. What we're going to be starting off with is going to be the cloak, or not cloak, the shirt. For that, we are going to be doing the reds. For this, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be mixing a couple different reds, a crimson, alizarin crimson that I usually do with oil paints, as well as a cadmium red, and then mixing those together to get that rich red and deepen it up with blacks and whites to kind of give it an off coloring. So first off, I'm going to start because I do want it bright in reminiscence of the actual Robin's gear. So taking a little bit on my paintbrush and just working it around. Not too stressed on my spillage, just because most of this is going to blend in with the black and darken up nicely. The cool thing that I love about this is that once you start thinning it, that black starts showing straight through and it actually looks quite wonderful. But the primary goal right now is getting it on there, because this is going to form the base coat layer for the reds, and this is kind of give the hue for what I'm looking for with the rest of him. The cool thing is that Robin, being the boy wonder he was, has been with Batman through thick and thin on a lot of different levels. I mean, the comic series gets pretty crazy on how some of them come to be. And the commission, I still am really impressed with the way the commission went, because I had never heard of the Batman Who Laughs or any of his any of his cohorts until I started this commission. And first thing I always do is I do some research. I try and figure out ways to look into a character, make him my own, and from there, things I would do, things I would change, things I would keep with each character. As you can see, that red just started blending pretty nicely with that black, didn't it? Just like I said it would, as it thinned out. One thing I did do is the way these prints came to me, they were pieced together, so I do have some UV resin filling that in to hold it in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fill that in a little better, but I wanted to get some paint on it to kind of show where it was at, and from there add some detail work to it. Now, I'm not doing a true version of this, but one of the biggest references I usually do with this is dry brushing. I'm putting a little bit of paint on the brush and then just moving it around. Gives you that thinner layer look, and depending on what you're trying to get out of it, gives you a little more control, especially with oil paints because they take so long to dry. So I tend to like to do this method a lot, especially with my hobbies. I'm a huge fan of Warhammer 40k, and while I don't agree with some of the stuff that they're doing, I do care deeply about the Imperial Guard. Some of the stuff I'll be doing is going to be tying into that and my custom army, which will be a very lovely Cobra-based army with Cobra Commander right there in top as the leader. And I already have a Destro figure, and I can kind of go over some of the steps I went with him to get him, but that'll be at a later time. So, as you can see, that dry brushing is starting to come in handy and come out in some beautiful details. But because this is the base of his shirt, which is almost everything is going on top of this. This is why I'm starting off with his shirt first and that reds. When it comes to the detail work with this cape, and I'll have to clean up this, I just noticed. I kind of rushed the cleanup on this a little bit, I'll admit. So, but we'll make it work. We always do. And of course, once I'm done with these, I do have 3 of these robins that are in effect. So the goal is to have all 3 of them done. One of the reasons that I'm doing it as a one at a time versus all 3 of them at the same time is because each one of them is a different size. And they're off just enough that you won't notice it until you put them together, and that can be problematic because I'm an idiot. I'll be the first to admit it. I will put things together the wrong way and then not understand why and try and force them to work. Great for Warhammer 40k, not so much for commission work. So, and of course, goal here is to get just the coverage down. So the red is going to be just the coverage for this character. I'm going to be a little gentle around the legs because he's going to be white, but the black is going to help me identify some of the shadowed areas and darken those up into deep, rich grays. And just like Aquaman, he's going to have that lovely leotard, but that Alizarian, I can never pronounce it right, so I do apologize. If you want, go ahead and leave a comment on it, but you see how rich that came out just a touch-up? Goes great for fresh blood, or if you mix it in, darkens those shadows up beautifully in my eyes and creates such a gorgeous rich red. So I can thank my art teacher for the addiction to that for the reds. He used to always mandate that we get both reds. So it wasn't one or the other, no, you had to get both because they tied together so well. And they really do. So what I'm doing is just getting into the crevices, with it and getting everything really in there where it needs to be for it. So you'll notice like where it runs over where that belt is. And of course now you can definitely see the Robin symbol starting to peek through. So we'll get that going. And that, if I remember right, is yellow, but I'll confirm that just before I start painting it. And then once it's all said and done, we'll work on some details, some muddying it up, doing some inking for lack of a better term, where we do some contrast and get some stuff going here, because we want our highs to be bright and we want our lows to be dark. That's the goal. And as you can see, he's already coming out. And this is an amazing print. One of the things that I absolutely love is there's a gentleman who I've been working with on the prints. He's been amazing for his 3D prints. And I'm hoping to expand out and do more with him for it. Because as you can see, his prints come out beautifully detailed and just exquisite. And to cut costs, he doesn't clean them up as much now, so most of that's going to be on me, which is no big. I need to get into that anyway, right? So, what we're going to do is get as much of the red as we can out of the way first. So as you can see, I'm flipping them over, I'm getting full 360. The cool thing about these is you can do that. It's not like a painting where you have to reposition yourself. You can actually reposition these models, which to me is an absolute godsend. One, because I'm able to give you guys a better view of what I'm doing, whereas otherwise you'd be behind my shoulder as I'm working, kind of thing. And anybody who's been to college, high school, always hates that person staring over their shoulder, even some of the workplaces. So I'm not gonna force you guys to do that where I'm paranoid about my work and not saying what's on my mind. But as you can see, he's starting to really come out. That red is catching just enough black to be able to cause it. And as you saw, I'm catching a little overlay, which is fine. I'm not stressing there. The overlay is kind of to be expected. Oops, I added too much red. So what I'm going to do is thin my brush down, and what I'm doing is I'm just brushing it real quick, getting some of the excess paint off of it. That way, because as you can see, it brightens up wherever it hits. So great for ridges, things like that, especially after this has had a little bit of time to dry. And of course, I'm going to be going over this a little bit better and making it blend in a little more with that UV resin. Because the least amount of lines that you can make, the less it draws attention. So the goal is I want all those connectors as much as possible gone, because I don't want them to pull away from the piece. And some of them will enhance the piece, like Iron Man, suits of armor, things like that. Those lines actually can help because they create an actual sense of depth instead of when you're painting a false sense. But in bio, organics, things like that, you want very few straight lines if you can avoid it. So you want that natural curvature. As you can see the way his spine is going, you have that natural curvature. It actually looks like he's ready to pounce, ready to leap onto you, ready to attack. And he should be, right? He's half crazed. So, there we go. First step. Let me know what you guys think.